Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So last time we completed the first part of Krishna's education discourse to Arjuna, which is the indestructibility of the Atman, the self, and the inevitable progression of the human being, and birth and death being intertwined. You can't escape from that. So once you have that clarity, that's what he said in 30. The indweller in the bodies of all is ever indestructible, O Bharata. Therefore, you should not grieve for any creature. So, see, what you all should note is the whole Gita starts with Arjuna's grief, which we have explained comes from a lack of fundamental knowledge and understanding of life. So, the first lesson he gives him, and Arjuna is grieving because of the impending death of his near and dear ones. So he tells him, any which way you look at it, there's nothing to really grieve about, because the soul, the real identity of each person is indestructible. The mind and intellect also upon death continue. That's a natural progression. You die when this environment is no longer conducive for your continued development. And so this will continue. Till you have desires, you will continue this cycle of birth and death. So what's the problem? And even if you look at it as the physical body, anything born has to die. That is the law. So if you have this clear understanding, you will not grieve. So grief is all selfish, self-centered. You grieve only because of the impact it has to you. So whole life you look at it from an egocentric angle and suffer. So any person who has the knowledge and looks at life as it is, there's no problem, there's no suffering. That's what we discussed. 20 verses. So the question then becomes, the soul is indestructible, this body is destructible. We have these desires which are constant, unending. So what should you do? And that's what he talks about now, 31 to 40. Your duty to act. So here he gives the picture of, first he gives the philosophical picture. Here he now moves on to what each one of us needs to do to get to that ultimate state. And that's called your duty, your obligation. Your duty is not what each one of you thinks it is. You're attached and you say, what duty? This is all attachment, selfishness. Your real duty as a human being is to find the self, your Atman, the consciousness, nothing else. So how do you do that? while living in the world. That's the challenge. And that's what he talks about in 31. We did 31, right?
Yes.
So he says, looking at your own duty, you should not waver, because there is nothing better for a Kshatriya than a righteous war. Kshatriya means warrior. So what Krishna is telling Arjuna is, you have an opportunity to act in accordance with your nature. What else do you want? Number one. See, this is the first lesson of life. You must make a note. He's giving it in the first verse itself when he talks of practical Vedanta. So each one of us has a particular nature, a talent, an inherent inclination. It's called Swadharma. Swadharmam. In fact, he starts it with that, starts the verse with that word, Swadharma. Dharma, nature, Swa, your own, one's own. So early in life, you have to find what is your Swadharma and work in that field. Don't worry about anything else. Because if you work in a field which is not in accordance with your nature, it may be comfortable, you may earn, but you'll be extremely frustrated all your life because you're constantly fighting against yourself. Number one. Number two, even if you work in a swadharmic field, if you work selfishly, it doesn't work spiritually because you will accumulate more desires and more agitations in that field. What's the point? So it has to be your swadharma, one, and the direction should be selfless. You must be as selfless as you can. Two, I told you recently a doctor called us. He said, first time I ever heard this. And they are well in their middle age. And they said, whole life we've been just working. I see my patients just for myself, my own earnings. And this made me think. So I said, let me work for their benefit. In the sense, at least the attitude should be, how can I serve that person? It's not that you don't charge your fees or whatever. That you have to make a living, you do that. But what's your attitude? And they said our whole complexion of life changed, after that. You look forward to going to work. That's what he's telling him. There is nothing better than what you have. Your Swadharma is a warrior. You've been a soldier all your life. A soldier looks to fight for a righteous cause. That's why this war is being fought. These Kauravas are a curse upon this earth. You have to destroy them. Now, what's your problem? So this is the problem in life, friends. You don't understand that there is something beyond your family. Even Arjuna couldn't understand. My family will die. And people give big lectures. There's nothing higher than family. You see even in interviews and all what people talk. It is like a mice talking. Mouse. See, the lowest is yourself. Higher than just you is your family. Higher than your family is your community. Higher than the community is the country. Higher than the country is humanity. Higher than humanity is all living beings. Now, where will you get there? To reach the Atman, you have to have that as your goal. All living beings, not just human beings. There's so much talk, pets, pets, pets. Huh? What about all the animals you kill? Are they not also animals? Pets are good, are like gods. Animals you can't kill. Animals can be killed easily for food. It's just feeling for what you like. So, You must understand, friends. You have to work for a higher purpose in life. That's the only way. Not only will you grow spiritually, you will actually be a happy person. You will be a peaceful human being. There's no other way. So Krishna gives him the first lesson: do not waver, for there is nothing better for a Kshatriya, a warrior, than a righteous war. See, on the opposing side, there were righteous warriors, but they were forced to fight for an unrighteous cause, like Bhishma and Drona. They had to do it. Here he's saying you're not only fighting the war, but you're fighting for a righteous cause. What else you want? So similarly, friends, look for a higher purpose in your life. First thing you have to do, if you want to apply this knowledge. Okay, I have a field of action. How can I be of service? You're working, many of you work for organizations. You must think in terms of benefiting the entire organization, not just you. That's all. Do the same work. And you see how it changes everything. In your family, you have to serve your family. Why do you expect anything in return? The minute you expect, you're gone. All the peace goes. The people here complain all the time. You know how ungrateful the children are. Ungrateful. You did your bit. No, why do you want a return? That's also a return. I did so much for them. They don't care. Let them not care. You did your bit. That's it. It's one-sided. In Vedanta, it's all one-sided. You do what ought to be done. That's the beginning and the end of your life. You are in a heaven of your own. Why are you bother? Why are you dependent on others? You had children for your entertainment, for your emotional satisfaction. You had all that. Now you want them to again still cater to you. Hey, there's a limit to selfishness also. You get it? So clear so far? Any questions? 32.
यदृच्छया चोपपन्नम् स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम् सुखिनः क्षत्रियाः पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम् यदृच्छया चोपपन्नम् स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतम् सुखिनः क्षत्रियाः पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्.
Happy are the Kshatriyas, O Partha, who get such a battle that comes unsought as an open door to heaven. So here he's talking about the practical benefit of following dharma, the right principles of living. So heaven refers to, it's not a place you go to, it refers to a state of mind. When your mind is peaceful, you are in heaven. When your mind is agitated, you're in hell. When it is peaceful, agitated, peaceful, like ups and downs, then you're on earth. Metaphorically. The heavenly existence, earthly, and hellish. So these were personified in stories as heaven and hell, and people take it literally. It has nothing to do with it. It's all in your own mind. John Milton says, the mind is its own place. It makes a heaven out of hell, a hell out of heaven. There are people, the best of partners, the best of money, and they make a hell out of their life. Royalty, the divorces, bitterness, and billionaires, all kinds of problems. It has nothing to do with what you have. It's how you relate to it. So, what happens when you act selflessly, backed by this knowledge? Your mind becomes peaceful. And when your mind is peaceful, you're able to focus on your work with clarity. There's no agitations disturbing you. So your actions become successful. Whatever action you do. So this is the immediate benefit. And heaven refers to the future benefit, which is as you go on in this way, your desires, your selfish, egocentric desires reduce. So you become permanently peaceful to that extent. See, it is desires that cause agitations, mental disturbance. So one way of getting peace is to fulfill the desire, correct? Guy has a desire for a cigarette, he smokes it, he gets peace. This is what everybody is doing. What happens after that? That desire comes back stronger. So even though the immediate result is peace, long term it's more sorrow. Because the desire becomes stronger, the agitations become more. So people who have $1 million, they think 10 million is this is it. 10 million, immediately it becomes 100 million. So you're tortured by your own mind. So if you work in a way, not only do you be successful, but you can reduce that desire for the future. Your mind will be permanently peaceful. This is called heaven. So what happens with Vedanta is you're peaceful now, your ability to earn and produce becomes more. So in fact, you have more in the future, and you have more in the future, and you have desires are less. It's not heaven, it's a deluxe heaven. No jokes. There are people who tell me, some people, I don't know why my company pays me so much. Actually, they say. And it's not that they are millionaires, billionaires, ordinary, but desires reduce. So they all the time you're surplus. And they tell me also stories. My boss earns 20 times more than me. Fellow is the most miserable person I've seen. Because desires are 100 times more. Earning is only 20 times more. So what do you do? Happy are the Kshatriyas, O Partha, who get such a battle that comes unsought as an open door to heaven. So he says, unsought in the sense you weren't even seeking this. You didn't want to fight. And you've got the opportunity. It's presented itself to you. People wait for such opportunities. You got it by yourself. And if you don't do it, other side is hell, which is the next verse, 33.
अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं सङ्ग्रामं न करिष्यसि ततः स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि.
Now, if you will not wage this righteous war, then having abandoned your duty and fame, you will incur sin. So, duty, now this is the fundamental difference. Duty refers to actions performed with your intellect for a higher purpose. This is the definition of duty, real duty, not the duties you have. Those are all based on your own preferential attachment. We're not talking about that. Real duty, the definition is actions performed with the intellect. It means with understanding for a higher purpose. That we don't know. What do we know? What do we follow? Opposite of duty, which is actions performed by the mind based on personal likes, dislikes, desires, and attachments. So, if you will not wage this righteous war, why are you not waging it? See how he derives it. Because of your own preferential likes and dislikes. So, you abandon your duty and fame. You will not get success. Fame refers to success, accomplishment. So neither will you get peace in the present because desires agitate you, neither will you get success because those agitations impede your actions. And in the future, what will happen? See the opposite. Everything is opposite. What happens in the future? You are creating more desires. Therefore, you will incur sin. Now, first time in the Gita, he's brought in this concept of papam. Papa means sin. And nobody understands what sin is. People believe sin means I don't lie, don't cheat, don't be bad to others. This is all meant for illiterates, giving a list. Sin philosophically means mental agitation. The Atma, see, you must derive the definition. What is God, self, Atman, is the state of infinite bliss, happiness, fulfillment. Anything opposed to God, opposed to the self, by definition is agitation, sorrow. Therefore, sorrow is sinful, philosophically. And what causes sorrow? Desire. And that is why desire is personified in every religion as the devil standing between you and God. So it's all symbolic. God is bliss, devil is desire, sorrow. So if you act on personal desires, you will only create more desires. You are incurring more sin, means more sorrow. You are getting further away from the Atma. See how scientifically it's all derived. So if you abandon your bounden duty as a human being, which is to use your intellect to get back to the self, you are condemned to sorrow eternally. You will incur sin. So one guy, he defined what is money. Interesting. Dave Spiegel, I think he's a millionaire or something. He says, what do you think of so much money you have? He says, money keeps you unhappy in a better part of town. A very interesting definition. I am still as unhappy as before. Better town, better part of the town. other side of the tracks. So that basic unhappiness will not go. That is the sin. Because there's no control over the mind. So it is the desires cause endless agitation. Endless. New York Times called it the lust for zeros. Lust for zeros. Read that article. One fellow reached the pinnacle of accomplishment. No, but I want one more zero. The fellow went to jail. They wrote an article. That's the sin. So Vedanta is not against money or accomplishment or work. In fact, Vedanta insists on work. But it's against this uncontrolled craving of the mind, which leaves you agitated. So look at how Krishna has turned the whole thing upside down. Because in verse 1, Arjuna said, how can we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? You go back to chapter 1, 36 to 39, which all of you agreed. Yeah, how can you be happy by saying no to your own family? You will say that. How can I be happy? What is the conclusion? You can only be happy by killing, not for all of you, in this situation. Some of you, now Gita has given me license. I always want to get rid of that uncle of mine. Obviously, it doesn't mean that. In this situation, if you don't fight, you will be unhappy. Means only by fighting this war can you be happy. See how the whole thing is operating. So in other words, what you must understand is each one of us is Arjuna. Means you look at everything upside down. This is not a joke. This is not an exaggeration. Everything is looked through the lens of your own ego and selfishness. Therefore, you see everything wrong in life. Everything. So once that lens of selfishness, self-centeredness is removed, you see everything perfectly correctly. But that lens is stuck to your head now. What can you do? So you got to put an effort. This is what this knowledge is, to give you the right picture, right? So Gita has exaggerated it so much that he's actually saying, by killing your own kith and kin is the way to true happiness. So he's because of that particular situation. You get it? Any questions? Yes. Sri Vidya. Yeah, you're unmuted now. Don't do anything, just talk.
Sorry. Sorry, Gautamji. Earlier you said that if you are doing, I want to make sure I understood. If you're doing something selflessly for the benefit of mankind or for the greater benefit or for a larger cause bigger than yourself, then that's a version of duty. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, that see the what I was saying is your duty as a human being is to reach the self, reach your real identity. So whatever actions are necessary to get there become your obligatory duties. And
so how does
So the main,
so how does that,
just one second, let me finish. So the main part of your action which will help you get there, in addition to the study and devotion, which is jnana and bhakti, The main part of our life consists of actions. So, in your actions, you have to work selflessly because those actions remove your desires, which are impeding your progress to the self. It's as simple as that. So, therefore, in whatever you're doing, and the easiest way to do it is in your work. All of you are working in some field or the other. Make sure you work for the benefit of a larger circle, not just yourself. Even in your family, work for the benefit of your family, not expecting anything in return. That's what I said. Now, with this framework, please ask your question.
Yeah. So, how does that play up, or how does that relate to a situation where, say, a student goes to protest what he or she perceives the injustices in Palestine? Right? I mean, so they can say that they are doing it for the greater good. They can say, I'm not putting myself first. I see grave injustice, and injustice is happening in many places, but this particular situation, they see grave injustice, and they take a position and they decide to say protest on campus.
Right.
So, where is, like, how do they, is that, first of all, is that their duty? I would argue that you're going to school to study, but, but they are not looking out just for themselves. They're saying, hey, I'm doing this because I recognize something awful happening on the other side, and I want to do something about it.
Right. So, what is your question?
How does it relate to the concept of duty?
See,
are
first
they
of
in
all,
fact fulfilling their duty?
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with the action. It's the intention behind it which matters. Okay. So, any person who believes that their actions will help a higher cause in whatever way they can, they are, as far as they are concerned, they are doing their duty. Now, whether from your point of view it's right or wrong, we're not getting into that. You should worry about yourself. What can you do to serve a higher purpose? Like you said, there are so many injustices happening. There are so much happening all over the world. So each one of us should say what best each one can do to their capacity. That becomes your duty. So it's purely individual. What is higher for you may not be higher for somebody else. See, for example, for a person who's working just for their family, working for their community is higher. A person who's already working for their country, just working for a community is lower, it's selfish. For a person who's already working for humanity, working just for their country is selfish. Why only restricted to my country when I'm able to serve the whole world? So each one has to see what is higher from their point of view and function. Right. Umesh?
Yeah, Gautamji, as a follow-up. So the question becomes, is protesting a form of duty? Because mere protesting doesn't accomplish anything.
The other part of it is how effective it is. That each one has to make a decision. It's like fellows ask me, should we pray for world peace? Right? Praying for world peace to whom? Do something about it. Similarly, there are times in history where protests have brought about the whole change, revolution, or whatever it is. Other times it has no meaning. So you must decide whether your action is meaningful. Is it really going to have an impact? Now, nobody functions with their intellect. Everything is emotional in this world. Therefore, nothing happens. So the root cause of all the problems, see, all of you should understand, is one thing and one thing alone, which is selfishness. There is no effort in this world to remove the basic selfishness. So between countries, there's selfishness. I'll destroy your country for my country's benefit. Between religions, it's selfish. Other religions should not prosper. What is all this conflict you're talking about? Root cause is religion. Who's going to educate these fellows? What is the difference between the religions? Every religion says to serve. Let others live their life. So it's all selfishness. Only Vedanta goes to the root cause, which is how to remove your selfishness. And therefore only knowledge has a lasting impact on changing anything. All the charity, all the plans, all the politicians, what has they all accomplished? Zero. More bitterness, more selfishness, more sorrow. So that way, if you go and talk about it, nothing will have an impact, long-lasting impact, except knowledge, education. But again, to address the doubt, it is as far as that person believes what they're doing is unselfish, they are doing what's right from their point of view. Now, how much impact it will have, that's a different discussion. They also worried, my child is going for protest. How much I have paid for that fellow's college bill. Now he'll come back with a C. Again, selfish. So you have to analyze the whole thing. Yes, Arun.
Gautamji, I'm a little confused about one thing that I'm struggling with. Dharma, so you talked about karma, jnana, and also bhakti. But in your lectures, and also Partha ji talks about cause and effect, right? Cause and effect, and even it's very cause and effect is as a scientific principle. So where does bhakti come in? Because I get jnana, I get the karma, you have to do your duty, but bhakti that comes naturally, when we pray and things like that, is it sort of is cause and effect sort of contrary to having bhakti or blind faith? Because they to my mind, I'm struggling whether there is a contradiction here.
See, you very conveniently slipped in two things: bhakti or blind faith. Who said bhakti is blind? Then now you're equating the two. True devotion is backed by understanding. That is true devotion. So if you see, even in the Gita, we'll get to that. In the 12th chapter, which is called Bhakti Yoga, he talks about the 35 qualities of a devotee. Who's a real devotee of God? And one of the qualities is Mahi Arpita Mano Buddhihi. He whose mind and intellect is totally dedicated to the self. So any feeling you have, you must feel what you understand. You must understand what you feel. Even the opposite. If you have knowledge and have no feeling towards the self, you are a professor of philosophy. You're not a philosopher. Philosopher has both. And karma is action with knowledge and feeling backing it. That is true karma. So the principle of cause and effect, since you asked, it's valid in the conversation. That's why I'm explaining. The principle of cause and effect for spiritual growth is very simple. When your thoughts go to the higher and don't go to the lower selfish, egocentric thoughts, these thoughts drop away. Because the principle of thought progression is, if you can stop thinking about something, it will die away. Problem is you can't. If I tell you tomorrow stop thinking of money, can you stop thinking? You can't. The only way you can do it is if you start thinking of something higher. That's Vedanta. Vedanta gives you knowledge of the self. So when your thoughts go towards it while studying, it's called jnana. When your thoughts go to the higher while feeling, It's called bhakti, right? Your emotions go. I want to reach the self. That's what you should feel. Now, people's prayer is, give me something. That is selfish. That's not bhakti. That is beggary. It's not bhakti. You're begging. Instead of working for it, you're begging for it. Nothing will happen. That's what we mean. Bhakti, cause and effect, it will not work. So true bhakti will elevate you. Your thoughts go to the higher, they don't go to the lower, they'll drop off. You get it? So pure cause and effect. It's all science. 34.
अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययाम् सम्भावितस्य च कीर्तिः मरणादतिरिच्यते अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययाम् सम्भावितस्य च कीर्तिः मरणादतिरिच्यते.
People also will recount your perpetual dishonor, and to the honored, dishonor is worse than death. So here is a complete shift from the philosophy to a very mundane view, because you must have some sympathy for Arjuna, because you hear one hour and then you're back to square one. He's been hearing continuously. It's not a weekly conversation. Let all the battlefield wait. 1 week later we'll talk for 1 hour. All the soldiers are not going to wait for 1 week. So continuously Krishna has been bombarding him with the highest philosophy. If you remember 11 to 30, what the self is indestructible. Now again he spoke about your duty to act. So it's too much for Arjuna. And Krishna can see that. He can't take any more philosophy. So he comes down to provoking him. That he'll relate to now. Because Arjuna, as a warrior, a prince, from childhood brought up, obviously has a big ego. In a sense, it's natural. He's not trained himself. Anybody who's not trained himself with any accomplishment, they'll have a huge ego. It's unnatural. You can't blame them. So how do you provoke that? By this kind of a thing. If you go away from the battle, Arjuna, what will happen? All these Kshatriyas who've been singing your praises all these years will say, what a coward, what a this, what a that. And he says, such a life will be worse than death for you. So what you must understand from this is, this ego that we all have is so powerful that it literally destroys our life. You know how many people I know or know of whose friend did very well and they just can't take it. So they took loans upon loans so that they also make a business like that, and completely destroyed a beautifully running wealthy lifestyle. They became paupers. How many people? Why? What's the source? Ego. That ego makes you do it. How can that fellow be higher than me? He used to be nothing at one time. Why does that agitate you? Because of your ego. Is this weddings? A poverty-stricken country. Fellows blowing up billions on weddings. All just out of that ego. to show others. And that creates insatiable desires in all the attendees to have something like that. So whole life they will go on accumulating. That is why in India there is no charity. I'm telling you the reason. Take it or leave it. There is no charity because the fellows just want to go on accumulating to blow it up on their children's wedding. That's it. That's their goal of life. I have no problem, but there can't be a disregard for the other obligations of life. You can do what you want with your money. But what is that weakness from which it comes? Ego. So if you can live your life without that reference to what others are thinking, if you have your ego under control, literally you become a king. You become so free and you live life on your terms. Now the car you buy, there is more on what others have got. How can I? The house you have is more dependent on what others will think. Nothing to do. What should be your parameter? What can I afford? So that's what he's provoking, that ego. So anytime you feel that ego, this is a spiritual person, you will learn to cut it. Somebody else has got a role which you wanted. So what? They deserve it, let them have it. Why do you get it? Jealous? Jealousy is nothing but ego. Arrogance is ego towards those who have less. Jealousy is ego towards those who have more. That's all. The two parts of the same coin. It's called Mada, Matsarya in Sanskrit. Mada is arrogance. It's a form of ego towards those who have less. Matsarya is ego functioning towards those who have more. It's the same thing. As long as you have a free ego, you can't be free of these two. So Arjuna started reacting. Yeah, oh my God. So practical tip is, you want to get anything done, simply cater to the ego. Flattery. What a nice cook. Next time you'll get all the food you want. Simply, you're a horrible cook. Not really, but suppose it was true. Still, you can say. See, because 99% of the fellows will fall for flattery. And the 1% who's objective, very rare. They'll also understand that you want something. So they'll ask you, okay, what do you want? So both ways you don't lose. So it's simply flatter, right? You won't lose. That one person will ask you, what do you want? You tell him what you want. Other person, they'll be completely deluded by the ego. Yeah.
So Gautamji, going back to your example of the marriages, suppose the person, I mean, I'm not saying that's what the intention of most people are, but in a way they might be thinking if they think that is the way to give back to society, distribute their wealth to people and, build up the economy. So they are...
Build up the economy.
Yes, so how does...
See, you fellows have all these weird concepts, they may think. See, I am saying, he's saying weddings will build up the economy. And see, it's like saying, why don't we have more disease? That will build up the hospital system. We'll have more hospitals. Economy will build up. You want that kind of economy? Where everybody's sick and everybody's being treated? I am saying, have less disease. And the counter argument is hospitals will shut down. Fantastic thing if there are no hospitals in this world. All that money will be used far more productively. You understand? So what are you talking? You have no idea. They are doing it for their fat ego. Finished. And that is not the way to build economy, to feed people who are overweight. What kind of economy building is that? You're building ill health, not economy. So these are arguments by fellows who have nothing else to do, who want to justify. It's like fellows, you say meat eating is wrong. What about the slaughterhouse economy? No. What can you talk to people like? So you live by your conviction, let them live by their conviction. Why you bother? So doesn't work that way. The same wealth can be used far more productively to help others. You get it? You're just using it for your ego and then justifying it. That's what happens. Economy. This economy thing itself is a mad concept. All the economy has improved. What has the human level improved? Selfishness has gone through the roof. Economy is improving. Doesn't work that way. So there has to be a regard for others in this world. That's how it really builds up. When you give them the chance to improve, to be better, right? See, we are doing a project. So many of you know. See, we have a academy in India, and we are teaching. I was there for 10 years. We teach the youngsters this knowledge, 3-year course. And we can say, yes, we are doing a good job. Now, what about the surrounding area? The help comes to the staff comes, right? They work there. And they don't have a proper house to live in. Live in a mud shack, bathroom outside. Now, you can say, yes, we are doing a great job. We are building the economy. And go on having better facilities, amenity. And the people who come, so much disparity, okay, there's some disparity, that's understandable. Everybody can't be the same. There should be some concern, right? So we are talking about that feeling. If that's not there, see, somebody forwarded me that documentary on the Romanovs, the Russian, the last Tsar, that's what it's called, the last Tsar of Russia. It's there on Netflix or something. The fellows, see, they own the whole country. This is the amount of wealth. And the people are protesting, there's no bread, at least minimum you can do. Amazing. How much chance they gave him. The population, they're so innocent. Okay, he's a czar, he's like a god, he's like that they treat him. That's how they're able to exploit that feeling amongst the masses. And they say, okay, let us have some bread. No. Let us have some little power, little thing they give. That also they won't give. What's the result of that? They'll come and blast off. Finished him off. Literally shot the whole family point blank. See, the monarchies which gave up their power, they're still there. Can you imagine? An English monarchy was the first that gave up their power to the people. Still the people want them. In spite of, I don't even want to know what all they've done or not. Still they say, no, we want them. How? Because they gave it. Right? Yeah, I think in Spain also there's a king. Sweden, there's all the people who gave up their power, they're still there. Still in today's age. Can you believe it? France, they refused. They finished them off. Whole lot they took and guillotined them. So that's what I'm saying. It's not that you should not forget about the arguments. We're talking about the feeling. I'm only talking about that. I have nothing against weddings. Do the weddings you want and or don't do. But there should be a feeling. Got it? You just care about your ego. Couldn't care less. So the first dharma in the Upanishads also, he asks him, what is the What is your advice when the good disciple is leaving? He says that Shraddhayadiyam, give with Shraddha, with constancy, constantly. Shriyadiyam means give in abundance. Riyadiyam means give with modesty. Just because you're giving, there should not be an ego. Bhayadiyam means give with fear. Fear in the sense, if you don't give fear, what's going to happen to you? And finally, samvedadiyam. But whatever you give should be given with intellect, not emotionally. Can you believe? This is 4,000 years ago, the earliest Upanishads. Shraddhayadiyam, Shriyadiyam, Riyadiyam, Bhayadiyam, Samvedadiyam. Where is that and where are we? So that is why India was considered the home of wisdom and spirituality from thousands of years. Indians themselves have no idea. What a tragedy. So, because you only believe when others say, somebody forwarded me this article, all of you should take a note. Put that up. So, The Guardian, which is a respected newspaper, they recently came out with this article. See that here. In Britain, you see that? We are still astonishingly ignorant of how ancient India shaped the West. So the British have found out. Now, because you say Indians, they'll write anything for India. I am not pro-Indian. You all know that. I am totally objective. We appreciate everybody's qualities. So he explains in this article. You'll send them the link in the chat. He'll send you a link in the chat so you can read it. It's not my article. So he says how British consciously wanted to suppress the fact that all knowledge comes from India because they were ruling. So to convince the Indians that their culture is far superior. And they did a fantastic job of that because even till today, Indians have an inferiority complex. So at least you should know, not just spirituality, mathematics, astronomy, everything. So read that article. Put that there. Is there on the chat? Don't know how to do chat, don't bug us. Simply go and do a search, Guardian, India, British. How do you chat? And I also don't know. So, okay. So, I thought you should know it. It was very, very well written by a Britisher. Because Macaulay made this plan in when he was ruling in India to make sure that the whole education breaks and replace it with British, which they did in all the colonies. So at least you should know what colony this was. Right. So we'll get to the next verse next time. Right? Ayom.